The Hells Angels messed with the wrong cartels, and what happened next is shocking. Across the world, outlaw bikers are colliding with international drug cartels. It's not the 1980s anymore. Today, cartels are bigger, richer, and more brutal than ever, and when the Angels try to play in their arena, it usually ends in blood. Larry Amero was a full-patch Hells Angel out of British Columbia, and by 2011, he was playing a dangerous game. Amero was working hand-in-hand with Mexican cartels, moving massive shipments of cocaine into Canada. But Amero's problem was greed. Instead of keeping his head down, he flaunted his wealth, luxury cars, yachts, and high-profile parties. He partnered with a gangster named Jonathan Bacon, a figure deeply tied to cross-border cocaine pipelines. Together, they tried to dominate the cartel supply line in Vancouver. In August 2011, gunmen ambushed Amero and Bacon outside a luxury resort in Kelowna. Bacon was killed instantly, Amero was riddled with bullets, and several bystanders were injured. The shooters were working for rivals backed by cartel money. Amero himself survived and was later arrested in 2018 for international drug trafficking. Court records revealed just how deep the ties between the Angels and cartels had become. But those same records also showed how vulnerable the bikers were. Every time they tried to rise higher, cartel-linked violence cut them back down. The Kelowna ambush was eventually tied to a group known as the Red Scorpions, allies of the Dark Dur gang. Police evidence later showed these groups had their own direct ties to Mexican suppliers and saw Amero's alliance with the Bacons as a threat to their profits. In court, investigators described Amero's network as part of the Wolfpack Alliance, a loose partnership of Hells Angels and younger gangsters. This Wolfpack had been negotiating directly with Sinaloa cartel contacts, which explains the intensity of the hit. The Kelowna shooting wasn't the end, it was the start of a bloody chain reaction. Just a year later in 2012, cartel-linked violence struck again. Suk Dak, an ally of Amero and Bacon, was gunned down in a hotel lobby in Burnaby, just outside Vancouver. It happened in broad daylight, in front of security cameras. Two masked men calmly walked in, pulled pistols, and executed him at point-blank range before escaping. Dak wasn't a Hells Angel, but he was partnered with them through the same cartel supply chain. His murder made it crystal clear. The cartels were cleaning house. Anyone who couldn't be controlled, anyone who brought too much heat, was eliminated. For the Angels, it was another brutal reminder. In Canada, they weren't the apex predators anymore. The cartels had the money, the guns, and the manpower, and they were willing to use all three without hesitation. By 2013, multiple Angels associates connected to these networks were either dead or in hiding, and Vancouver police began openly saying what everyone already knew. Mexican cartels now had a permanent grip on the Canadian cocaine trade. The Angels weren't partners anymore, they were liabilities. Dak's murder was part of what the police later called the Dark Dur War, a series of targeted killings that destabilized Vancouver's underworld between 2011 and 2013. His brother Gurmit had already been shot dead in 2010, which left Suk exposed. Intelligence reports revealed that both Dak brothers had brokered key drug shipments with cartel suppliers through the Hells Angels. After Suk's death, investigators openly linked the violence to Mexican cartels asserting control, saying the Burnaby shooting was a house-cleaning move meant to wipe out the unstable middlemen. The killers were never caught, but RCMP detectives made it clear Dak's execution was a cartel-backed green light, the same strategy they used in Mexico, removing liabilities in public to send a message. On the other side of the world, the same story was playing out. In Australia, the Hells Angels had always dominated the ice trade, crystal meth, but then the Mexican Sinaloa cartel moved in. They saw Australia as a gold mine, with meth selling for 10 times the US price. Suddenly, the Angels were middlemen, and they didn't like it. The conflict exploded in 2009 at Sydney Airport. Comanchero bikers with reported cartel backing clashed with Hells Angels in front of passengers. The flight was caught on dozens of cell phones, chairs, fists, and metal poles flew through the air. In the end, Hells Angels associate Anthony Zervas was beaten to death right there in the terminal. It shocked the nation, but behind the headlines, police investigations revealed the true issue. control of the meth pipeline. The Sinaloa cartel was smuggling multi-ton shipments into Sydney ports. Comanchero bikers were their muscle, and the Hells Angels were left fighting for scraps. By 2015, Australian police confirmed the cartels had a direct supply chain to biker gangs. And while the Angels remained powerful, they were no longer in charge. The cartel-backed groups could outspend, outgun, and outlast them. One of the most infamous biker brawls ever caught on camera happened in 2009 at Sydney Airport. The Hells Angels and the rival Comanchero Motorcycle Club clashed in a public terminal in broad daylight while horrified passengers filmed on their phones. The Comancheros had ties to Mexican Sinaloa cartel shipments that were being moved into Australia at the time. The Angels, who were trying to muscle into the same pipeline, saw the Comancheros as both rivals and cartel proxies. That day, Hells Angel member Anthony Zervas was beaten to death with a metal pole while travelers screamed in the background. The footage spread worldwide, showing just how far the Angels were willing to go to intimidate rivals, but it also showed what happens when you mess with people backed by international suppliers. The fallout was severe. Police raids exposed the meth pipeline stretching from Sinaloa into Sydney, with bikers used as distributors. The Angels wanted to cut in, but the message was clear. The cartel-backed Comancheros weren't going anywhere, and if you crossed them, you faced the cartel's global muscle. Jeffrey Jethro Pettigrew was the president of the San Jose chapter of the Hells Angels. In Northern California, he ran cocaine and meth pipelines, often clashing with Latino gangs tied to Mexican cartels. Pettigrew was charismatic, but he was reckless, and in 2011, that recklessness caught up with him. At a casino in Sparks, Nevada, Pettigrew got into a heated argument with a member of the rival Vagos Motorcycle Club. On the surface, it looked like just another biker rivalry, but the Vagos had connections with cartel-linked suppliers in Mexico, especially in marijuana smuggling. Pettigrew had been interfering with these routes, and tensions were boiling. That night, Pettigrew was shot dead on the casino floor. Security footage captured the chaos, crowds screaming, bikers pulling guns, bullets flying. The Vagos took credit, but whispers in law enforcement circles suggested something more. Cartel-backed groups were tired of Pettigrew's disruptions. His killing was fast, brutal, and designed to send a message. For the Hells Angels, losing a chapter president in such a public, humiliating fashion showed that when you start stepping on cartel-linked business, you risk execution. The Hells Angels built their reputation on fear. They've blown up cars, shot rivals in broad daylight, and controlled entire cities. But when they step into the world of the cartels, their playbook stops working. Cartels don't care about biker patches or reputations. They don't fight for bragging rights. They fight for billions of dollars in profit, and they eliminate anyone who gets in their way. So the next time someone tells you the Hells Angels are the most feared gang in the world, remember these 5 stories, because in the shadow of the cartels, even the angels fall. So what do you think about this?